Said I must compliment Secretary DOPT, Ma'am Rachna Shah, and Secretary DRPG, Madam Nivedita, for very elaborate presentation. I don't know how far we have been able to satisfy the media friends over here, but at the end of all this, they often ask, कि इसमें से news क्या है? So I hope you'll find something out of this. So without being repetitive, I think, and I would like to rather interact with you, rather indulging in monologue. I think the biggest, because those, some of you have also been covering the ministry prior to 2014, though not many, but I find there are certain veterans, I know whether they are here over here. They would realize that I think the biggest unspoken change that has happened is that there is a change in the face of the ministry. Now, these two departments were the departments which were not much talked about, which didn't attend media attention, and which were also not found very, very much desirable. And long many years before this government came in, DOPT, I hope it stands for Department of Personnel and Training, was also sometimes in lighter way described as the Department of Prosecution and Torture. That's no longer so now. And it was always also sometimes said that no officer wants to be posted in DOPT and no visitor wants to come here, because if they have to do so or are compelled to do so, it's usually out of some grievance. It's again no longer so. It's actually become a department of reforms. When Prime Minister said reform, perform and transform, that reform express engine is led by this department. And we are creating practices for other ministries to follow, in fact other states also to follow. Similarly, the Department of ARPG was hardly visible. I don't know how much in the media was known what is the ARPG, but the kind of new practices introduced over the last 12 years, which were being elaborated by Madam Nivedita, is become one of the most visible departments, because it's the nodal department for Swachhata campaign, nodal department for CPGRAMS Grievance. So it's again come in the center stage of the working of Government of India. And the third one, the Department of Pension and Pensioners' Welfare. Unfortunately, before 2014, the last two letters had been forgotten. So it had got reduced to Department of Pension. That means prepare the PPO, deliver it, and just deal with the accounts of pension. But the pensioners' welfare, which was a very important component, has been taken care of. And all this has been possible because the reforms that have been spelled out to you, I would say, are guided by three basic I's: innovative, imaginative, and inclusive. There's a lot of creativity gone in that, a lot of innovation gone in that, a lot of cautious effort to take care of every section of citizens, because the ultimate aim of governance or good governance is to bring ease of living in the life of a common citizen. At the same time, they have been driven by an extreme degree of sensitivity and also by optimum amount of technology, and keeping very much in mind the contemporary social milieu of the 21st century India. And I'll just take 2 minutes to give the example of what I'm saying. And some of our practices, therefore, have acquired global acknowledgement. Today, we are receiving civil servant delegations from countries like South Africa, Mongolia, Maldives, so on and so forth, to study our practices. If you go back, when I said driven by social milieu, you will also realize these are per se governance reforms, because the official phraseology guides us to call them governance reforms. but truly speaking, they are reforms with a large amount of very much and a considerable socio-economic impact. So though apparently governance reforms, they have a huge socio-economic impact. And as I said, I'm not saying this simply for saying, if you go back, soon after this government came in, we were sworn in on the 26th of May 2014. Within first 3 months, an important decision taken by the government of India through the Department of Personnel Training was to do away with the practice of getting your documents attested by the government, by the gazetted officer. Maybe many of the media friends who have joined later may not be able to recall the kind of hardship that at least my generation had to go, because we didn't know where to find a gazetted officer. And sometimes it became an opportunity for some Samaritans to make money out of that. But the single decision sent out a message that, look here, now this is a government which has the capacity to trust the citizen of this country. It's no longer a feudal government. So this was, in fact, a dubious legacy of the colonial rule. Otherwise, tomorrow you'll also ask your children to get their mark sheet attested by a gazetted officer before you trust him. So you can understand. The second important decision, because somehow this was not, but I'm just trying to point out so that you have some note to carry home. The second important decision was on the second, in fact, on the first Independence Day in 2014, PM spoke about Swachhata. Today, DARPG is the nodal ministry. And we have not only created new practices, but we have taught practices to others, like 4,000 crore money from electronic waste. And there were housewives coming to us asking us, where do you sell these mobiles? We have so many left over in the house. Then I said, we can give you the address of the people who assemble it, but not publicly. And it's about more than 9 lakh square feet of space vacated. In the second Independence Day address in 2015, PM spoke about abolition of interviews. Again, a far-reaching social reform, because the common grievance was that a candidate scores 100 marks in the written for considerations by the functionaries or the authorities. He is given lesser marks in the interview, whereas one who has scored very few in the written, he is given higher marks in the interview because he has to be favored. So we did away with that. In case where an interview is required, for example, if you are recruiting an officer or a driver or a cook, then the test will be only qualifying. So what I'm saying is, then similarly, as Ma'am Rachana was spelling out to you, this reform of RTI, I remember the day when we announced, we made online. So one of the media persons said, what difference will it make? तो मैंने कहा पहले से 10 से 4 होता था ऑनलाइन हो, तो मैंने कहा डिफरेंस ये हुआ कि कई लोगों को रात को 12 बजे के बाद भी ज्ञानोदय होता है, उस वजह से उठ करके RTI डाल सकते हैं. So we have tried to make the facility accessible, and there is a lot of social centric angle behind it. Another, while referring to Prevention of Corruption Act, ma'am pointed out the amendment which was incidentally brought by me only in the parliament. I think the hallmark of that, again, there is a social angle to it which was not possibly, could not be included, is that the bribe taker was also made culpable. And usually what happened is that you allot a contractor some tender, one who's aggrieved would lodge the complaint against the officer. So now it is not bribe giver also, not only bribe taker, sorry, the bribe giver also will be equally culpable. That has reduced such complaints and has also given confidence to the officer. So on the one hand, we have taken care of the social milieu. On the other hand, we have tried to give a good work environment to the officers. Similarly, of course, Mission Karmyogi, I'm not going to speak because already you have been overfed about that. We've been talking about it time and again. Ma'am has also very elaborately. But of course, it's a huge shift from role to role, particularly for the civil servants who overnight get transferred and then they have to adapt to the different roles. PM Excellence Award, again a social bearing. Earlier on, it was individual based. So what would happen? I would say, look here, for last 3 years, Punjab is not being given. So give one to some DM from Punjab. And then so Ludhiana wala DM usko bhi de diya, Ambale wale ko de diya, Jalandhar, Amritsar wala chhut gaya, isko de do. So it happened by default. Now it's competitive. You file the flagship program and the result is a 99% participation of almost all the districts. Similarly, CPGRAMS, when this government came in, I'm trying to give you some of the facts, not including this, which possibly would be sounding a little interesting, where the number of complaints filed per year with the government of India from across the country was only 2 lakh. Today it is close to 25 lakh. Not that people have started filing complaints against us, but because we are responsive, we are prompt, we are following a timeline. And then when Mr. Srinivasa was there, I suggested that we have nearly 100% disposal, but the complainant is not going back happy because no two words in English language mean the same. You may have disposed of. Suppose I say, why am I not editor of this channel? The response would be, you are not qualified to be so. But I think, no, I can do better. So my aspiration is not addressed. So that is why we started this human desk, which Madam Nimita, and this we have created a model. As I said, we have created practices for others too. This is hybrid model, which is AI plus HI, human intelligence. Tomorrow we will have HI-led AI, which I was talking to one of the scientific departments. But here we have created a model. So AI alone may not be giving the optimal results. Similarly, in the pensions, because then we'll talk to each other. Digital life certificate. Earlier, I thought we should do with the certificate itself. It's quite inhuman. But then some of the bankers suggested that no, there could be a room for malpractice. So we introduced biometry. And when we realized that Indians have started living longer, the average life has gone more than 65. After 70 or 75, your fingerprints may not be reliable. We were among the first in the government to introduce face recognition technology. Usually it was used by the crime world. So that's what I said. We have not only created new practices, we have created practices others follow. Now this face recognition technology and this digital life certificate, these are some of the global practices being adopted and being studied. Both Mission Karmyogi, Digital Life and CPGRAM. These are 3 models which are being now studied. Anubhav was again started by us very imaginatively in 2014. We said any officer retiring in last 6 months should record an experience. And I said, not only that he'll have satisfaction of, seeing what he has written, because otherwise no one has time, even your family members don't have time to see what you're doing, but at least he'll see. But more than that, for us, a feedback. Like I was telling yesterday itself in that pension workshop in Srinagar, I said the first time when we introduced this, and I myself was key because I try to learn myself each day. So I went through this, I came across a fascinating, I went around telling people, a lady officer working in tourism all her life, passionately dedicated to the subject. She wanted to go for capacity building to a university abroad. She kept trying 4 or 5 years, finally she succeeded. She went there for 2 years, came back. When she came back on her table, she saw the order transferred to road transport. I said, this is now systemic fallacy that we need to. So you see how much of human resource and state exchequer wasted on that exercise of going and coming, and then you're not utilizing. But so passionate she said she was. She kept trying. Finally, she got herself posted back in tourism. By that time, her 3 months were left for superannuation. So these are all our manuals also. In an age of evidence-based objective working, these are our feedback mechanisms as well. Similarly, in pensions, 3-4 important, which I have personal satisfaction, did away with the rule which debarred separated daughters or divorced daughters living with their parents from the right to family pension. Earlier on, they had to go to a court and get a judgment. The court judgment for a divorce takes about 2-3 decades. We left without that. Did away with the pension rule, debarring a person or his family of family pension if he had not put in a service of 7 years or 10 years. So I said, if you don't give the person the right to choose the timing of his death, how do you deprive him of benefits? Had he known, he may have lived for 10 years. So these were some of the things which were being carried from possibly from the British times, because they had different criteria. They were generating revenue for the empire. We are generating revenue for a welfare state. They were collecting revenue. That's why they were called collectors, not district development commissioners. So entire look has been changed. Similarly, this, what ma'am mentioned, I know how many of you noticed, this government not only has increased maternity leave, but last year we included stillbirths, because it was done very unscientifically. A woman who undergoes pregnancy has to go through the same physiological changes in her system, and then to revert to her original pre-pregnancy system also takes, which is called involution period, medically takes about 1 or 2 months. So why should she be deprived? Because she gave birth to a child who was not live. So we made that physiological correction. So I think not much has been done, keeping the sensitivities of the contemporary social milieu in mind. And the other 2 organs also related to the ministry are the IIPA, the Indian Institute of Public Administration, has been given a different look. Now the membership is open to all. Earlier it was only open to the retired persons. And we have also extended our activities to the private sector as far as imparting courses is concerned, because the oldest institute of public administration. And simply at Labasana, the curriculum has been, there's the other institution associated with this. The curriculum has been given quite a reorientation. The faculty has been widened. Earlier on, it was mostly based on humanities. Now it's including scientific experts or teachers, also including communication experts. And we are also holding workshops regularly. This year, they will also start a Vipassana, what is called the Vipassana, I think, course of yoga in the curriculum. So we are trying also to move on with the times and integration with the other institutes. Earlier on, the closest to that is the Indian Military Academy. They never had an interaction. Now we have army officers coming there for 2-week course, 3-week course, like that. So on and so forth. I think we better talk. And I think through you, we also appeal to the state governments to avail of these services. We are providing CPGRAMS framework or integrating the states into this. We are also providing Mission Karmyogi platforms. Recently, we started we have also in the process of introducing course for science administrators on the IGOT. So we would like the state governments to avail more and more of our services, assistance. We are already into it, but more it is, the better would be, and we'll be glad to do that. And in COVID times, just when Jammu, one of the achievements of this ministry, you changed over the state of Jammu and Kashmir to a UT, and then COVID happened. In COVID, we opened CAT benches in Srinagar and Jammu. And in COVID itself, we started CIC, the Information Commission Office, though online. And there was not a single day interruption of working in the ministry during COVID. So people were working rather extra from home, even on Saturdays, Sundays. So I think this is, and even this Information Commission, it was during these 12 years that they have an independent office. Earlier, they didn't have an address. So all this has happened in the last 12 years. Much more, otherwise we'll go on talking. Already enough has been talked about. I think you should be telling us what to do next.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful address. Now we'll move on to the media interaction. So All your questions will be answered. We can start from the left. Anybody? Okay. There's a question at the back.
Question or a suggestion, whatever.
Sir, this is Damini Nath from the Indian Express.
Sir, I can't hear you.
Sir, this is Damini Nath from the Indian Express. Sir, I have two questions. One is, sir, one of the reforms mentioned in the slide was the lateral entry recruitment, but it also showed that there hasn't been any since 2023. Last year at a similar press conference, I had asked about this and we were told that consultation is on with stakeholder ministries. Could you please tell us what is the status of lateral entry?
No, it's not with the stakeholder ministries alone, with everybody. In fact, we would like to have your inputs also. Because suddenly this came up that you should have reservation. So I'm at my wit's loss how to go about it. You suggest how to go about it. Because these are standalone appointments. So we tried our best, to the best of our wisdom, to the best of our effort to convince you. Suppose I'm appointing in Indian Express, I need a cinematographer or a photographer and one post. How do I reserve it? The best to my mind will be that this year OBC photographer, next year SC photographer, third year general. But then I'll have to wait for 3 years if this year. So in principle, all over, standalone pros do not have these constraints. But then there was so much of pressure from all sides. And as this government is very open to inputs, so we said, okay, with the spirit of democracy, we'll go ahead as you wish, but suggest us a model. So we are still talking, trying to ask, there is no feasible option given to us so far.
So, sir, does it mean that lateral entry has been suspended or, the government has decided not to continue?
No, it's not so. There is no such order suspending the process. Maybe it has not happened for a while. But if you have an answer to the issues raised, we'll be able to move ahead again. How do you do reservation in that? You don't do it in your media house, but you're asking.
So the other question I had was regarding, paper leaks, so it's not directly connected to the ministry. How seriously is the government taking the issue of paper leaks?
No, I don't think I'll like to get into that because it pertains to Ministry of Education and they're doing it their own way, I think, in quite an appreciable manner, and trying to also update the media from time to time. On the contrary, we brought a separate act called Prevention of Malpractices. That was pertaining mainly to the SSC and UPSC exams because there were some impersonations, etc. happening. So we brought in a parliament legislation for that. But there also we made it very clear, because that message should not go wrongly, that the students will not be taken to task. Because as I said, before each reform, we have tried to consult the stakeholders. The students have said, no, if this legislation is brought in as such, tomorrow some of us may also get entangled. So if somebody is impersonating in place of a student, that student would also get affected. So that was the apprehension. So I said, we have actually kept them out of that. It will be only the person who has connected the crime or the nexus which has done that, not the student who was involved.
टेलीग्राम सब कुछ बंद कर दिए.
वो आपको अभी ब्रीफिंग देंगे INB वाले, मिनिस्ट्री वाले अलग से.
अच्छा, नॉट बाय यू.
बड़ा पहले समझ आ गई थी, उतना ही बोलना है जितना.
ये आपने अभी बताया थे CP ग्राम्स, इसका मतलब जो है वो कितना मतलब एडवांटेज पोजीशन?
नहीं, इसका एडवांटेज ये है कि पहले तो ग्रीवेंस का जवाब ही नहीं था होता. तभी मैंने कहा कि केवल 2 लाख शिकायतें आती थी देश भर से पूरे साल में, क्योंकि जवाब ही नहीं था आता. और बहुत सारी राज्य सरकारों ने अपनी वेबसाइट से बना के रखी थी, लेकिन वेबसाइट कोई ऑफिसर विजिट नहीं करता था. तो जब ये हमारी 25 लाख हुई, तो आप जैसे एक मित्र ने पूछा कि इसका मतलब आपकी शिकायतें बढ़ गई। तो मैंने कहा इसका जवाब बाबा गालिब 150 साल पहले दे देंगे कि जब तवक्को ही उठ गई गालिब, क्यों किसी का गिला करे कोई। क्योंकि हम गिले का जवाब देते थे, इसलिए हमारे पास और गिले आते थे। सीपी ग्राम से हमने 95% डिस्पोजल किया। शुरू में जब हमने इंट्रोड्यूस किया तो मैं खुद शाम को बैठता था, फ्राइडे इवनिंग। तब देयर वाज अनदर लेडी फ्रॉम बंगाल, मिसेस मुखर्जी। तो हम रात को बैठ के शाम को फोन करते थे रैंडमली टू वेरीफाई। तो पहले तो वो यकीन नहीं था करते, कहते ये फोन है भी कि नहीं है। फिर वेबसाइट पे चेक करते थे। धीरे आदत पड़ गई। देन पीपल डेवलप्ड एक्सपेक्टेशन। उसका ये हुआ, और ये हमारे लिए फीडबैक है। मैंने 2-3 उसमें से निष्कर्ष निकाले जो अधिकारियों के साथ साझा किए। मैंने कहा अगर एक ही शिकायत 2-3 जगह से आती है, देश के भिन्न भिन्न हिस्सों से, इसका मतलब है कि शिकायतकर्ता ने हमारे किसी सिस्टमिक फ्लॉ को पॉइंट आउट किया है। क्योंकि आपको अगर दिल्ली में महसूस हो रहा है कुछ कि ऐसा है, नहीं होना चाहिए, और दूसरों को केरल में, इसका मतलब कि हमें उस नियम में बदलाव करने की आवश्यकता है। तो ये हमारे लिए भी एक अच्छा फीडबैक बन गया सीपी ग्राम्स का। और अब हमने धीरे धीरे प्रदेशों को भी इसके साथ इंटीग्रेट कर दिया। और उसके बाद जब ये लगा कि पूरी तरह से तसल्ली नहीं होती, क्योंकि जो उसकी आकांक्षा है उसकी पूर्ति नहीं होती, उसको जवाब तो मिल जाता है, तो फिर ये ह्यूमन डेस्क भी इंट्रोड्यूस किया। तो ये AI+HI जैसे मैंने कहा।